The atmosphere surrounding the K-pop industry has been particularly heavy these past few weeks, hasn't it? It feels like we are witnessing a pivotal moment in real time, a shift in the trajectory of a group that many of us have watched grow from their very survival show days. When the news first dropped on March 10th, it sent a shockwave through the community. Silence from the artist often speaks volumes, but in this case, the silence was broken by a confirmation that many fans were dreading, yet somehow expecting after days of intense speculation. Heeseung, a member who has long been regarded as the vocal anchor and one of the most reliable performers of ENHYPEN, would be parting ways with the group. The official statement from Bellef Lab was concise, confirming that he would not be returning to the group activities but would remain under the agency to pursue solo endeavors. It was a move that immediately sparked a firestorm of debate, confusion, and heartbreak, marking one of the most significant member departures in the fourth generation of K-pop. For days, fans were left in a vacuum of information, dissecting every deleted post and every schedule change, until finally, on March 22nd, Heeseung stepped back into the public eye, not on a grand stage, but through the intimate and often revealing setting of a video call fan event. This wasn't just a routine appearance. It was his first public-facing moment since the announcement, a moment that would set the tone for the next chapter of his career and define his relationship with a fan base that was currently fractured by mixed emotions. The transition from being a central figure in a top-tier idol group to a solo artist is a path that has historically been fraught with challenges, and understanding the weight of Heeseung's situation requires looking at the patterns that have defined successful solo careers in the past. The industry has a clear blueprint for this transition, a blueprint that rarely fails when executed correctly. If we look at the durability of legends like Taemin, Taeyeon, or Baekhyun, their solo journeys began not when they severed ties with their groups, but while their groups were still active and thriving. Taemin's ace dropped while SHINee was still a dominant force, and Taeyeon's eye cemented her status while Girls' Generation was at its peak. The logic behind this strategy is sound and deeply rooted in the psychology of the fan economy. When an idol launches a solo career while the group remains intact, it presents the project as an expansion of the brand rather than a replacement. Fans aren't forced into the painful psychological process of choosing between the member and the collective. They are simply invited to widen their umbrella of support. It allows for a safety net of institutional support, where the company leverages the group's existing infrastructure to bolster the individual. Heeseung's trajectory, however, diverges from this proven formula in a way that adds a layer of precariousness to his debut. By stepping away from ENHYPEN to go solo, he is entering a lane that requires him to establish a brand new identity from scratch, asking fans to adjust to a fundamental absence in the group dynamic while simultaneously trying to sell them on his individual artistry. This is a much harder sell, a replacement structure rather than an expansion, and it places an immense amount of pressure on his first solo output to be nothing short of spectacular. As the clock ticked towards the fan call event on March 22nd, the tension among the fan community was palpable. This wasn't just about seeing an idol. It was about verifying his well-being and gauging the authenticity of the situation. The images and clips that began circulating online almost immediately after the calls started revealed a Heeseung who appeared composed, albeit carrying a visible weight of the recent turmoil. The contrast between his polished appearance and the raw emotions of the fans created a heartbreaking juxtaposition. Comments flooded social media platforms, ranging from visceral relief to lingering suspicion. "His eyes don't lie, please," one comment read, reflecting the intense scrutiny every micro-expression was subjected to. The atmosphere was a strange mix of a reunion and a farewell, a shared space where fans tried to reconcile the image of the idol they supported for years with this new independent version standing before them. What stood out most profoundly during these interactions was the emotional vulnerability on display. For an industry that often prioritizes polished perfection and carefully curated narratives, these fan calls offered a rare glimpse into the human side of the idol system. Heeseung addressed the elephant in the room with a directness that many appreciated. He acknowledged the shock his decision must have caused, expressing a sentiment of apology mixed with resolve. "I know you must have been really surprised," he admitted to one fan, his tone low and sincere. "I'm doing okay, but part of me still feels sorry." This admission of guilt was a crucial moment. It humanized him, stripping away the corporate veneer and showing a young man navigating a difficult crossroads. However, this transparency also fueled the fire of the divided fandom. While many saw his honesty as a sign of his respectful nature and deep connection to the members and fans he was leaving behind, kind. A vocal minority interpreted it as performative or insufficient. The internet, as it often does, became a battleground of narratives, with some accusing him of selfishness and betrayal, while others staunchly defended his right to pursue his own artistic vision. Despite the noise of the controversy, the core purpose of the fan call was to reconnect and to look forward, and it was here that Heeseung dropped the most significant piece of news that has solo stans and general K-pop listeners alike buzzing with anticipation. Amidst the reassurances and the emotional exchanges, he confirmed what many had hoped for. He is actively preparing to release a solo album. The revelation came naturally during the conversation, a glimpse into the future he is building. When asked for spoilers or details about his upcoming work, Heeseung offered a tease that speaks directly to his strengths and his aspirations as a musician. He described the project as being real different from what fans might expect, hinting at a sound that diverges from the intense conceptual performances of ENHYPEN. When a fan probed about the genre, specifically asking if it would lean into R&B, he played coy, but confirmed the shift in direction. This aligns perfectly with the critical theory of solo success, the necessity of offering something the group does not. In ENHYPEN, Heeseung is the power vocalist, the versatile ace who can handle high notes and intricate choreography with equal finesse. But as a solo artist, he now has the freedom to explore a more intimate, textured soundscape. R&B is a genre that thrives on vocal nuance, emotion, and groove, qualities that Heeseung possesses in spades, but which are often utilized differently in high-energy idol tracks. His mention of working with or being associated with independent producers suggests a move towards greater authorship and creative control, a real different identity that could solidify his position not just as an idol, but as a legitimate artist in his own right. This pursuit of a distinct musical identity is perhaps the most critical factor in his potential longevity. We have seen how Baekhyun leaned into a more sophisticated urban sound for City Lights, or how Sunmi carved out a niche with her unique off-kilter pop concepts. Heeseung appears to be following this path of differentiation, carving out a sonic space that is exclusively his own. However, the question of whether he can translate this talent and intent into a sustainable big career remains the million-dollar question. The K-pop landscape is littered with talented vocalists who failed to make a dent as soloists, not due to a lack of skill, but because the solo proposition was unclear. Talent is the baseline requirement. It is the engine of the car, but the car needs a map, a destination, and a brand. Heeseung possesses the engine. His vocal prowess is undeniable, widely considered one of the strongest of his generation. What he needs to build rapidly is the brand. He needs to answer the question, who is Lee Heeseung outside of ENHYPEN? The fan call event was a solid first step in answering this, presenting a mature, introspective, and artistically driven individual. But the transition is sharp. Unlike idols who bridge the gap through mixtapes, OSTs, or subunits, Heeseung is making a definitive leap. This immediacy removes the safety runway. It's a takeoff from a cliff edge. The support system he retains from Bellift Lab is a massive advantage, providing him with the promotional machinery and resources that independent artists dream of. Yet, the efficacy of this support depends entirely on how the agency chooses to market him. Will they position him as the former ENHYPEN member, constantly looking back, or will they build a narrative around him as a rising R&B star who is writing his own story? The fan call showed that his core fan base is willing to make that leap with him. The fans who stayed on the line, the ones who choked back tears to tell him, "I will always support you," represent the bridge of the fan economy that is so vital for a solo debut. They are the ones who will drive the early streaming numbers, buy the albums, and create the initial buzz. But to grow beyond that core, to achieve the kind of top-tier solo success that places him alongside the Taemins and Taeyons of the industry, his music must resonate with a wider audience. It must be good enough to stand on its own merits, outside the shadow of the group he left.